back to Garage 5.2, everybody. Thank you for pushing play. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. It absolutely is helping me grow this channel and spreading the early detection prostate cancer awareness message. So thank you very much for that. The point of today's video. So I am going to talk about the 8 things that I have identified that are downsides, in my opinion, to owning a C6 Z06. You know, it really ain't all picnics and ice cream sandwiches. It really isn't. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, the LS7 reputation and the valve concerns associated with it. I mean, it's definitely the elephant in the room. So let's get it over with right now. The LS7 is both the reason to buy the car and the reason not to buy the car. I mean, if you saw my my video, like when motors go boom, like literally the day after I got the car, the engine, and it was not the valve drop. Then this, in my case, the heads were fixed, but unfortunately it dropped the lifter, one of the rollers on the lifter, and boom. So rather than wait for all of that to be, you know, diagnosed and all that, I just bought a whole new motor, you know, from the long block, the whole thing from LME. So, I didn't have that with the last car, so we went soup to nuts with one builder this time. But I mean, really, I mean, it is a badass engine. It just comes with some concerns. I mean, it's legendary, the LS7. But you know, between valve guide concerns, fears of drop valves, and head issues, that ultimately means that buyers are going to be obsessing about documentation. They're going to want compression and leak down tests. They are going to wonder, are the heads fixed? When were they fixed? You know, and if you're like me, you're asking about the lifters too. So consider that. Number 2, OEM replacement parts are becoming scarce. I've heard that manufacturers are only required to keep parts on hand for 10 years after the car goes DOL. I don't know if that I think it's different for every country, but you know, this car was last manufactured in 2013, so 2023, right? And at that point, you're probably going to have issues trying to find parts. The dealer may or may not have any. It is one of the downsides to owning, you know, an almost 20-year-old car. I mean, we're talking about eventually you're going to need interior trim pieces, weather stripping, specific electronic modules, right? Headlights. In my case, I went with Morimoto's. I think they look better anyway. But yeah, good luck trying to find stock headlights, especially for the color that your car is, because you know they're painted on the inside. Body panels, right? Z06 suspension components. I mean, it's crazy. They're hard to find, and I'll give you a very real example. It just happened to me, okay? So, as you know from the last video, I was expecting to go and really looking forward to going on the Twisted Sisters muscle car cruise, okay? We had about probably 8 or so people that were lined up. I was on the way. Remember, I swapped out the wheels and tires to my street setup. So I put the Apex wheels on with the Toyo tires, and I leave the driveway. I get a quarter mile up the street, and I'm hearing this grinding, this rubbing sound. And I'm like, I already raised the car up from the back. It should not be dragging. What's the problem? I'll show you the problem. This was the problem. This is the inner fender liner for the driver's side. Now, when I was at my very first CODA event back in December, it was too low in the back, which I fixed that, right? But at that event back in December, the passenger side inner fender liner was rubbing and ended up coming off, and so I replaced it. Got that replaced when I did the PPF ceramic coating over at Atomic Auto Spa, right? So, problem solved. Not so much. Unfortunately, this thing had duct tape on it. And I don't remember if it was, you know, I think it was double-sided, and so it was like stuck up and onto the backside of this, or maybe it was in between. All I know is when I pulled this out, and I'll show you the pictures, it had duct tape on it. So I don't know if that was from the original owner. Don't remember ever seeing that when I took the wheels off to change them to the track setup. But yeah, so I need a new one of these. And I'm like, where the hell am I going to find that? The guys over at Atomic Auto Spa bought the very last one for the passenger side. So I did what most of us are going to have to do: get on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, maybe whatever whatever your heart desires. I happened to use eBay, and I found a brand new one. It was just delivered this week, so tomorrow I'm taking it over to my mechanic's shop and have him put that on, fix the ground effect on the driver's side. And my tow hook has arrived. You saw my short from this week. My tow hook has arrived from LG. So looking forward to that. And the stealth one where it flips down, that's on the way. I just got, I ordered both of these parts all the way back in March. I got the tow hook this week. The stealth piece that goes inside that falls down, that just shipped today. So look forward to doing a video on that install. So the point is, these parts are hard to find. I mean, you could try calling the junkyards, you could search Corvette for them, or you could pay, and probably will pay, inflated prices because they're hard to find, and you're gonna pay for that premium, assuming you can even find the thing. Like, I wanted the carbon fiber trim piece that was on the 07s. Couldn't find it. Called all kind of places. Ultimately, just bought a carbon fiber piece that's all carbon fiber, no leather trim. It looks awesome, don't get me wrong, but I could not find the factory piece that I wanted in my color. I saw one with like yellow stitching, but so I bought the all carbon fiber piece with no leather trim on it. But that's the downside. I mean, you're just going to have to seriously scour the planet for replacement parts. Okay, number 3. So insurance companies might total the car if you have an accident. Depending on how severe, you got to figure these insurance companies obviously are there to make money, okay? And the harder your parts are to find, the more expensive it's going to cost them, right, to repair it. So this one's a huge one to think about because, like I said, as the parts availability decrease, the repair costs skyrocket, the labor costs increase. Insurance companies may just decide it's not economically viable to repair your car. We're just going to total it out. So even if the damage isn't catastrophic, okay? So a headlight, fender, aero piece, paint work, you add all that stuff up, that becomes, it can hit $15,000, $20,000. And, these cars are appreciating in value, but I'm pretty sure the insurance companies are just looking at whatever their blue book says. And if they say the car's worth $40,000 and it's $20,000 to fix, their calculus may say, total it out, we're not paying, here's the check for, for $10,000 or $15,000 or whatever they try to lowball you with. So it's because the parts are rare. And insurance companies aren't going to want to wait around for a part to get delivered for them to go find the replacement part because time is money. So factor that into your decision making as well. Number 4, dated interior. Okay, so I love my seats. All right, the C6 Z06 are far cry better than the C5s, any of the C5 seats, which just crank. You can hear the just pop, right? So these are much better, similar, but better. They are soft, but they don't do shit for holding you in place at the track. They're like my sofa. They are comfortable. They're great for long road trips, but they're a little dated. So on my wish list is to replace the seats for like maybe a competition seat that was on the C7, like in all black. Replace my C6 Z06 seats with those because the seats, one of the few things I actually like about the C7 were the seats. So, but you got to figure, people that bought like the later years, I understand that they were having some cracked dashes, the leather comes up, The seats obviously are good and comfortable, but they're not real supportive for track use. Worn leather, loose trim, rattles. Compared to the newer cars that, have the full infotainment system, they have backup cameras, they have CarPlay, they got safety systems. Now, most of that stuff you can upgrade. I did that. I went with a nice Kenwood deck that gives me my CarPlay. I got the infotainment system that most cars have with that head unit. I'm not missing much. I got rear view cameras. So most of that can be offset. But the interior, yeah, it's a little dated. Okay, number 5. So modified car problems. It kind of goes without saying. And you modify a car from stock, you're going to eventually have some problems. Big cams, headers, forced induction, E85, big cubes like mine. You're creating possibly drivability issues. Now, Pat G did my tune. He tuned this thing to drive amazing. I don't have any of that cam surge, nothing crazy. I mean, I'm going to have some because I put a big ass cam in the car, right? But a lot of people have a lot of bucking and surging. That's a tuning issue. That can be tuned out. You just need to get a good tuner that can do that. And I went with Pat G and I have had no complaints. So I would say go with Pat. But, drivability concerns for a lot of people, when you start heavily modifying these cars, it can be a, tuning headache depending on the tuner. Parts compatibility, you start adding aftermarket stuff to factory stuff, and is it going to work? How long is it going to work for? Then you get people talking about, well, who tuned this thing, right? This tune ain't right. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do the other thing. So yeah, it kind of goes with modified cars, but consider that. Number 6, and this can be good or bad. It can be both, actually, at the same time. The car attracts attention, a lot of attention. Sometimes bad attention, from cops following you, to waiting to see, when you're going to nail it, writing you up for, 2 miles over the speed limit, depends on the cop, depends on where you live. You get people wanting to race you. You get aggressive drivers. I see it happen last week, in fact. I'm just driving, putting along this, I don't know, Honda Accord thing, just zooms up on me and fast, and then and zips around. Obviously he wants some attention. He's feeling, froggy, and he wants to go, but I've got no incentive. I'm not falling for that. Why do I need to race a V6 Honda Accord or whatever the case may be? So no, thank you. But you get that kind of unwanted attention sometimes. Obviously, theft concerns. I don't take that car anywhere where I'm going to be, where it's not going to be in earshot, visual sight. It's going to be valet parked if I take it someplace, or I'm going to be sitting next to it, in an outdoor park. But yeah, theft concerns are real. So there's that. There's vandalism, some jealousy. People may vandalize your car. You try to park far away from somebody and someone parks right up next to you. That happened to me once, actually. They parked right on the side of me. And then another time I parked right in front of the bar in between 2 cars, but I was up close. I was right at the front door. But some guy parked, gave me 2 inches where I could not actually open my door to get in. I had to climb in through the trunk because there was a car on the right side that also sandwiched me in. Only thing I can chalk that up to is just jealousy. So there's that. People filming you, street race baiting, cops watching you obviously closer than they probably would watch that V6 Honda Accord. So goes with the territory. Number 7, and I did a video about my lessons learned. Highly recommend you check that video out. This is one of them, where number 7 is it becomes really hard to trust shops. Not everybody knows how to work on these cars. They haven't been out since 2013. If you want to talk about theft insurance, a lot of people can't drive a stick. They may not steal your car because it's a stick. But, back to my point, there's a lot of shops out there that claim to know what they're doing, and some want to, just say they do, and then they're experimenting on your car. Or maybe they got a reputation, they do good work, but not for you. That's happened to me more times than I can count. And then I take the car to another shop, and they fix the other shop's mess up, and then they break something else, and it just becomes this long chain of fuckery. And so you got to be careful about what shops work on your car. For me, it's LMR, and I have a local guy here in Austin that can help me with all things Corvette, because that's pretty much all they work on over there. So, so I'm working with John here in Austin. Thank you, John, if you're watching. He's the one that's going to be doing the replacement inner liner for me and installing the tow hooks and all that stuff. So thank you, John. So that's number 7. Be careful about who you trust with your baby, because they're not all to be trusted. And lastly, number 8, as I call it, and while you're in there, let's fix this. Let's fix these worn engine mounts. Let's fix this other leaking seal. I was in here for that, but there's a leaking seal over here. Oh, what about those worn clutch hydraulics? That damaged wiring from the heat. Tire bushings and oil seepage. I mean, it just becomes like this snowball effect. They get under the car, and they start noticing all kinds of other things because, like I said, car's almost 20 years old. You're going to find some stuff, especially if you've got a relatively high mileage car. Mine, I bought it with 23,000 miles on it. But, just be prepared. I mean, it's really not all picnics and ice cream sandwiches. There are some downsides, but the more you know, the more you can mitigate this stuff, okay? So do your due diligence. And while you're doing your due diligence, make sure you go to the doctor, get those health checks, right? Have the doctor check that PSA box on your blood form, because you're there getting your physical anyway. Do the needful. Believe me, prostate cancer is survivable if you catch it early. It's a slow-growing kind of cancer. You want to track those numbers so you can recognize an unusual spike if you ever have one. But track your numbers, know your baseline, and check that box.
Hit play, let it roll. Garage 512 in control. Got the story on the screen, yeah, it's all me. Little rush in my chest when the car shake. Cutscenes, quick fade.